Welcome back to Lena's Romantasy Collection. Today's story is a special one. It is hilarious, it is spicy, and it features a possessive alpha king who absolutely loses his mind over a dating app rejection. If you love stories with sassy heroines and kings who fall hard, do me a huge favor and tap that like button right now. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Now, put on your headphones because you are not going to believe how this mistake happened. Let's get into the story. I made a fatal mistake while waiting for my laundry to dry. I didn't insult a mob boss, and I didn't steal $1 million. All I did was swipe left on a dating app. I thought I was just rejecting an arrogant rich guy with stormy eyes. But 10 minutes later, I wasn't looking at his profile picture anymore. I was trapped in his penthouse, pinned against the glass by the most dangerous predator in the city. He didn't want a date. He wanted an explanation. He locked the door, leaned in close enough for me to feel his growl vibrate through my chest, and whispered the words that sealed my fate. "You rejected me. Now, I'm going to make sure you never do it again." This is the story of how I accidentally started a war just by saying no to the Alpha King.
Chapter 1. The smell of wet dog and cheap lavender detergent was giving me a headache. I sat on a plastic yellow chair that had seen better days, watching my clothes spin in the industrial dryer. The laundromat was my second home, mostly because my actual apartment was the size of a shoebox and didn't have plumbing for a washer. "Zadie, you're doing it again," my best friend Mia said from the video call on my cracked phone screen. "You have the I hate my life face." "I don't hate my life," I muttered, pulling the hood of my oversized sweatshirt up. "I hate that I have a master's degree in graphic design and I'm currently praying that my underwear doesn't shrink because I can't afford new ones until payday." Mia rolled her eyes. "That's why you need the app. I told you. Shifter Spark. It's where the money is, Zadie. Wolf shifters, bear shifters, heck, even eagle shifters. They love human women. And they are loaded." I groaned. "I am not dating a werewolf for money, Mia. They shed, they growl, they probably eat raw meat for breakfast. Just download it for me, please. It's purely for entertainment. Swipe while your jeans dry." I sighed, defeated. I had 20 minutes left on the cycle. Fine. I downloaded the app. The logo was a paw print with a lightning bolt, which felt incredibly cheesy. I set up a profile in 30 seconds. Name, Zadie Zooms. Occupation, freelance artist. Read, struggling. Bio, if you chew on the furniture, don't bother. I started swiping. It was exactly what I expected. Swipe left, too hairy. Swipe left, holding a dead fish in his profile picture. Why do men do that? Swipe left. His bio said, looking for a breeding mate. Gross. Then the screen froze. On a profile that had no name, no bio. Just a single photo. I stopped. The man in the photo was intense. He was wearing a tailored black suit that cost more than my entire college education. He was sitting in a high-backed leather chair, looking at the camera with an expression of pure, unadulterated arrogance. He had dark, messy hair and eyes the color of a stormy sea, gray, cold, and piercing. His jawline was sharp enough to cut steak. He was objectively beautiful. He was also terrifying. I whispered to myself, he looks like the type who would criticize my credit score during a date. He looks like he owns people. My thumb hovered over the screen. Too rich, too scary, definitely a psychopath. I swiped left, hard. 5 miles away, on the top floor of the Obsidian Tower, the air in the boardroom dropped 10 degrees. King Varric sat at the head of a mahogany table, listening to his advisors drone on about territory disputes. He was bored, lethally bored. His wolf, a massive beast that lived beneath his skin, was pacing restlessly. Suddenly, his phone, which was lying face down on the table, buzzed. It was a specific vibration pattern, one he had never felt before, because it wasn't supposed to happen. Basker, his beta and personal assistant, had installed that ridiculous dating app on his phone as a joke, claiming Varric needed a hobby. He had set it to king mode, which meant Varric was supposed to see every match instantly. But the notification on the screen didn't say, "It's a match." It said, "Rejected by user Zadie_Zooms." The entire room went silent as Varric slowly picked up the phone. His gray eyes narrowed. "Sir," one of the advisors asked nervously, "is everything all right?" Varric didn't answer. He stared at the screen. Someone had rejected him? Him, the Alpha King, the man who controlled the entire Lycan economy? A low, rumbling growl started deep in his chest. It wasn't anger. It was shock. And underneath the shock, something else ignited. A spark. He tapped the profile. Zadie_Zooms. A blurry photo of a girl with messy brown curls and paint smudged on her cheek. She looked tired. She looked small. And then through the digital connection of the mate bond, a faint scent hit him. It was impossible, but it was there. Vanilla, rainwater, and sass. Varric's grip on the phone tightened until the glass screen cracked down the middle. "Basker," Varric said, his voice dropping an octave, making the hairs on everyone's arms stand up. "Yes, my king," the beta squeaked. "Find her."
Chapter 2. You broke the phone, didn't you? Basker asked, looking at the shattered device resting on the polished mahogany table. Varric stood up, walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The storm clouds were gathering outside, mirroring the turmoil inside his chest. "The phone is irrelevant, Basker. Who is she?" Basker tapped furiously on his tablet. "Well, sir, the user is anonymous, but the app tracks location data for, quality assurance purposes. She was pinged at a laundromat on 4th Street 20 minutes ago." "A laundromat?" Varric repeated the word like it was a foreign language. He had never been inside a laundromat in his 400 years of life. "Why would she be there?" "Most humans use them to clean clothes when they don't own a machine, sir," Basker explained gently. "She's swiped left on you. That means she wasn't interested." Varric turned around slowly. The predator in his eyes made Basker take a step back. "She swiped left," he said, testing the words on his tongue. They tasted bitter. "She looked at my face, at my power, and she decided I was not worth her time." A dark, twisted smile touched the corner of his lips. Fascinating. His wolf was scratching at the surface of his mind, howling, "Mate. She is mate. Why did she say no? Chase her. Catch her." Varric adjusted his cuffs. "I don't care about the rejection, Basker. I care about the scent. Even through the digital interface, I smelled her. You know what that means." Basker dropped his tablet. It hit the carpet with a thud. "Sir, that's impossible. Digital scent transfer is a myth. Unless the bond is so strong it transcends technology. She is the one." Meanwhile, I was oblivious to the fact that I had just triggered a supernatural manhunt. I was wrestling my laundry bag onto the back of my scooter. It was a bright pink scooter I had bought secondhand, and it sounded like a dying lawnmower every time I started it. "Come on, Betsy," I pleaded, kicking the starter. "Don't die on me now. I have a shift at Tony's Pizza Palace in an hour." The engine sputtered and coughed, then finally whined to life. I strapped my helmet on, ignoring the first drops of rain that were starting to fall. My life was a series of unfortunate financial events. I had student loans that were accruing interest faster than I could blink, rent was due in 3 days, and my freelance art career consisted of drawing logos for dog walkers for $50 a pop. I needed tonight's tips. I needed them bad. I drove through the city, weaving between expensive cars that honked at me. I didn't care. I was a woman on a mission: deliver pizza, get cash, survive another week. I arrived at Tony's just as the sky opened up. "Zadie!" Tony yelled from behind the counter. He was a large man with flour permanently dusted in his mustache. "You're late. I got a VIP order. Big tip potential. Don't mess this up." He shoved 3 large pepperoni pizzas into a thermal bag and shoved them into my arms. "Where's it going?" I asked, wiping rain from my eyes. "The Obsidian Tower," Tony said, his eyes wide. "The penthouse, top floor." My stomach dropped. The Obsidian Tower was where the billionaires lived, the kind of people who didn't tip because they thought exposure was currency. Or worse, the kind of people who looked at delivery drivers like we were invisible. "Great," I muttered. "Rich people, my favorite." I ran back to Betsy, my scooter. The rain was coming down hard now, soaking through my jacket. I didn't know it yet, but I was driving straight into the lion's den, or rather, the wolf's den, and the man waiting for me wasn't hungry for pepperoni.
Chapter 3. The ride to the Obsidian Tower was miserable. The winds whipped against my helmet, and my jeans were soaked through to my skin within minutes. By the time I pulled up to the massive glass structure, I looked like a drowned rat. The valet looked at my pink scooter with sheer disdain. "You can't park that thing here," he sneered, looking down his nose at me. "It's a delivery for the penthouse," I snapped back, flipping up my visor. "Unless you want to explain to the guy on the top floor why his pepperoni is getting cold, I suggest you let me park." The mention of the penthouse made him pale. Everyone in the city knew the rumors about who lived up there. Some said it was a mafia boss. Some said it was a reclusive tech genius. Nobody guessed it was the alpha king of the Northeast wolf pack, mostly because humans didn't know wolves existed. "Right away, miss," the valet stammered, stepping aside. I grabbed the thermal bag and marched into the lobby. It smelled like expensive lilies and money. The floors were marble so polished I could see my reflection, and it wasn't pretty. My mascara had run, and my hair was frizzing out of control under my helmet. I approached the security desk. "Delivery for the penthouse?" The guard checked the list, then looked at me with pity. "He's in a mood today. Good luck." He buzzed me through to the private elevator. The elevator ride was agonizingly fast. My ears popped as we shot up 50 stories in seconds. I tried to wipe the water off my jacket, but it was hopeless. I was going to drip on this guy's expensive floor. "Just get the money and leave," I told myself. Smile, hand over the pizza, pray for a $20 tip, and run. The elevator door slid open directly into the apartment. My jaw dropped. It wasn't an apartment. It was a palace. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the entire city skyline. The furniture was dark, sleek, and modern. A fireplace the size of my car was roaring in the center of the room. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the vast space. "Pizza!" There was no answer, just the crackle of the fire and the sound of rain hitting the glass. I took a few steps forward, my sneakers squeaking loudly on the hardwood floor. "Hello? I have 3 pepperonis and a side of garlic knots." Still nothing. I was about to turn around and leave the food on the table when a door to my right opened. A man walked out. He was wearing a dark silk robe that was tied loosely at the waist, revealing a sliver of a hard, muscular chest covered in dark hair. He was holding a glass of amber liquid. I froze. It was him, the guy from the app, the swipe left guy. In person, he was so much bigger. He had to be at least 6'4". Broad shoulders filled out the silk robe, and his arms were corded with muscle. But it was his eyes that pinned me to the spot. They were glowing, not metaphorically. They were literally shimmering with a faint gold light in the dim room. He stopped mid-stride. He dropped the glass. It didn't break. It bounced on a thick rug, spilling whiskey everywhere. He inhaled sharply, his nostrils flaring. "You," he whispered. His voice was deep like gravel grinding together. I clutched the pizza bag like a shield. Yeah, me. Look, sorry about the rug. That looks like expensive whiskey. Anyway, the total is $24.50. He didn't blink. He didn't look at the pizza. He was looking at my neck, specifically at the post point where my heart was hammering a mile a minute.
Chapter 4. Varric felt like he had been struck by lightning. The scent was overwhelming. Now that she was here, in his territory, in his home, it was suffocating in the best possible way. Vanilla, rain, and something sweet and frightened. His wolf was clawing at his insides, screaming, "Mate! Mate! Claim!" He forced himself to stay where he was. If he moved, he would scare her. She was tiny, so fragile. She was dripping wet, shivering, and looking at him like he was going to eat her, which, admittedly, he wanted to do, but not in the way she feared. "The pizza?" she squeaked, waving the bag. Varric took a step forward. The movement was predatory, fluid. He couldn't help it. "You came to me," he said softly. "I told Basker to find you, and you delivered yourself to my door." Zadie frowned, confusion knitting her brows together. "Excuse me? Nobody found me. I'm working. This is my job." She took a step back, her sneakers squeaking again. "Okay, you're weirding me out. Here's the deal. You pay for the pizza, I leave, and we never speak of this again." She placed the thermal bag on a nearby glass table with a thud. "That'll be $24.50, she repeated, her voice shaking slightly, but her chin held high. "Tip isn't included, but judging by the silk robe and the view, I'm guessing you can afford it." Varric blinked. She was insulting him? Or teasing him? Most humans trembled in his presence. Most wolves exposed their throats in submission. This tiny, wet woman was demanding a tip. A low chuckle rumbled in his chest. "You want money?" "I want to be paid for my labor, yes. Capitalism, it's a thing." Varric walked closer, closing the distance between them. He could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes now. He could see the exhaustion under them. "I saw your profile." Zadie froze. Her face went pale. "Oh, no." "Zadie Zooms," he recited. "Freelance artist. If you chew on the furniture, don't bother." "I don't chew on furniture, Zadie, but I do bite." Zadie swallowed hard. She looked from the door to him. "Okay, look," she stammered, backing away until her back hit the cold glass of the window. "I swiped left. It was nothing personal. You just looked intense and rich, and I don't do rich guys. You guys are high maintenance." "High maintenance?" Varric repeated, placing one hand on the glass beside her. He didn't touch her, but he caged her in. "You rejected the king of this city because you think I am high maintenance?" "King?" Zadie let out a nervous laugh. "Okay, Your Highness. Can I go now? My scooter is double parked." "You swiped left," Varric murmured, leaning down so his face was inches from hers. He inhaled her scent deeply, his eyes fluttering shut for a second. "My mate does not swipe left." "Mate? Buddy, I don't know what kind of roleplay this is, but I charge extra for acting." Varric opened his eyes. The gold was swirling violently in the gray. "It is not a game, little one. And you are going nowhere." Chapter 5. Panic. Cold, sharp panic spiked in my chest. This wasn't funny anymore. This guy was huge, delusional, and clearly used to getting whatever he wanted. He called himself a king and was talking about mates. I was trapped between a glass window and a wall of muscle. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Here is what is going to happen. I am going to walk to that elevator. I am going to press the lobby button, and you are going to enjoy your pepperoni. I tried to duck under his arm. Varric didn't grab me. He just moved. He was faster than humanly possible. 1 second he was in front of me, the next he was standing in front of the elevator panel. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver remote. Click. A heavy metallic thud echoed through the room. The elevator doors locked. Then I heard the clicks of the front door bolts sliding home. "Did you just lock me in?" I asked, my voice rising an octave. "I cannot let you leave," Varric said calmly, as if he was discussing the weather. "It is storming outside. You are soaking wet. You are shivering. And—" he hesitated, looking at me with an intensity that burned. "And my wolf will tear this building apart if I let you walk out that door right now." "Your wolf?" I looked around for a dog. There was no dog. "You have a dog? Is he aggressive? Is that why you locked the door?" Varric rubbed his temples. "I am the wolf, Zadie." "Right," I said slowly. "Okay, mental health crisis. Got it." My eyes darted around the room for a weapon. My gaze landed on a large blue and white porcelain vase on a pedestal near the hallway. It looked ancient. It looked priceless. I didn't care. I sprinted toward it. Varric watched me, tilting his head. He didn't try to stop me. I grabbed the vase by the neck and hoisted it up. It was heavier than I expected. I held it over my head like a battering ram. "Unlock the door," I yelled, brandishing the antique pottery. "Unlock the door or I break the Ming Dynasty antique. I swear to God, I will smash it." Varric looked at the vase, then back at me. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. It changed his whole look. He went from terrifying to devastatingly handsome. "It's from the Qing Dynasty, actually, and it is worth about $40,000. My hands shook. "I don't care. I'll drop it." Varric took a step toward me. He looked delighted. Why did he look delighted? "Break it," he said, walking closer. "Smash it on the floor. Throw it at the wall. I don't care." He stopped just out of swinging range. His eyes locked onto mine. "I will buy you a factory of them. I will buy you the museum they came from. You can break everything in this penthouse, Zadie, but you are not leaving." My grip on the vase faltered. He was crazy. He was rich and crazy. "Why?" I whispered. "I'm just a pizza girl. Why are you doing this?" Varric reached out, his hand hovering near my face. He looked like he was afraid I would break if he touched me. "Because," he rasped, "I waited 400 years for that scent, and I am not letting you drive away on a pink scooter into the storm." He took the vase from my shaking hands and set it down gently on the floor. Then he loomed over me. "You are cold. Take off your clothes." My eyes bulged. "Excuse me?" "Your clothes," he clarified, pointing to my dripping jeans. "They are wet. You will get sick. Take them off. I will give you something of mine." "I am not getting naked in front of you." "Fine," he sighed, looking annoyed at my modesty. "Then I will turn around. But if you are not in dry clothes in 3 minutes, I will dress you myself." He turned his back, crossing his massive arms. I stood there, shivering, terrified, and oddly flustered. I had swiped left on a monster, and now I was trapped in his castle. And the worst part? The pizza was definitely getting cold. I stared at the broad expanse of Varric. He stood like a statue, facing the wall, his arms crossed over his chest. The silk of his robe stretched tight across his shoulders. Even from behind, he radiated a kind of kinetic energy that made the hair on my arms stand up. 2 minutes. I'm going. I scrambled toward what looked like a walk-in closet, but was actually the size of my entire apartment. Rows of bespoke suits, crisp shirts, and Italian leather shoes were organized by color. It smelled like cedar, sandalwood, and him, that dark forest rain scent that was starting to make my head spin. I grabbed the first thing I saw, a black button-down shirt. I stripped off my soaking wet jeans and t-shirt, shivering as the cool air hit my skin. I pulled his shirt on. It was massive. The shoulder seams hung halfway down my biceps, and the hem hit my knees. I looked like a child playing dress-up in her dad's work clothes. "Done," I announced, hugging my arms around myself. Varric turned around. His eyes landed on me and instantly darkened. The gold in his irises flared, swallowing the gray. His nostrils flared as he took a deep breath. "You are wearing my scent," he whispered. It sounded less like a statement and more like a prayer. He took a step toward me, then another. The predator was back. "Okay, space," I said, holding up a hand. "Personal bubble, respect it." He stopped, but he looked like he was in physical pain. "You look small." "I'm average height," I defended, though I had to crane my neck to look him in the eye. "Now unlock the door. I'm dry. I'm clothed. Transaction complete." "I can't let you leave," he said, his voice straining. "The storm is worse, and you are defenseless." "I have a black belt in sarcasm and pepper spray in my purse. I'll be fine." He shook his head. "No, you stay. I will order food. I will have a room prepared." He reached for his phone on the table. He was going to keep me here. He was actually going to kidnap me because of a dating app glitch. I needed a distraction. My eyes darted to the wall near the kitchen. A small red lever. Emergency fire alarm. "I'm sorry about this," I muttered. Varric looked up. I yanked the lever. Screech, screech, screech. The sound was deafening. Strobes of white light began to flash. "What did you do?" Varric roared over the noise, covering his ears. His wolf hearing must have been agony. "Safety protocol," I yelled back. "Automatic door release." Sure enough, the heavy bolts on the front door clicked open, a fail-safe for fires. "Zadie!" Varric lunged for me, but the disorientation from the noise gave me a head start. I grabbed my wet clothes and bolted. I ran out the door, into the hallway, and jammed the button for the service elevator. It opened instantly. As the doors slid shut, I saw Varric standing in his doorway, bathed in flashing strobe lights, looking absolutely furious and impressed. "I'm keeping the shirt," I yelled as the doors closed. Chapter 7. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my lumpy mattress in my tiny studio apartment, wearing Varric's black shirt, clutching a baseball bat. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. I half expected a SWAT team of werewolves to rappel through my window, but nobody came. By morning, the adrenaline had worn off, replaced by the crushing reality of my life. My phone alarm blared at 6 a.m. "Ugh," I groaned, rolling over. The shirt smelled like him. It was annoying how good it smelled. I buried my nose in the collar for a second before I caught myself. "Stop it, Zadie. He's a psycho billionaire with a god complex, not a boyfriend." I dragged myself out of bed. I had a shift at the coffee shop, the daily grind, at 7. Since I'd abandoned the pizza delivery shift mid-disaster, I was pretty sure I was fired from Tony's. I got dressed in my barista uniform, luckily the one thing I hadn't put in the wash yesterday, and marched outside to my scooter, Betsy. Betsy was parked on the sidewalk, looking sad and pink. "Okay, girl," I said, patting the handlebars. "I know yesterday was rough, but Mama needs to make rent." I put the key in. I turned it. Click. Whirr. Clunk. Nothing. "No," I pleaded. "No, no, no, Betsy, please." I tried again. Clunk. She was dead. The storm had flooded the engine. I kicked the tire in frustration. Great. Perfect. Just fantastic. I checked my bank account app. Balance $42.18. A mechanic would cost at least $200. I sat on the curb and put my head in my hands. I wanted to cry, but I was too dehydrated from stress. "Need a lift?" I looked up. A black sedan with tinted windows was idling at the curb. The window rolled down. It wasn't Varric. It was a younger man with glasses and a nervous expression. "Who are you?" I asked, gripping my bag. "I'm Basker, Mr. Varick's assistant. He monitored the weather reports and the structural integrity of your vehicle." "He what?" "He knew your scooter would die," Basker admitted. "He sent me to drive you to work." I stood up, my spine straightening. "Tell your boss that I have legs, and tell him to stop stalking my appliances." "Miss Sadie, please, I don't drive you. He's going to come himself, and he's, very agitated today." "Let him be agitated." I snapped. I started walking toward the bus stop. "I take public transit like a normal peasant. Goodbye, Basker."
Chapter 8. The bus ride was miserable. It smelled like wet socks and despair. By the time I got home that evening, I was exhausted. My feet throbbed, and I had milk stains on my apron. All I wanted was instant noodles and silence. But when I turned the corner to my apartment building, I stopped dead. There was a crowd of neighbors gathered on the sidewalk. They were oohing and aahing at something parked right in front of the entrance. It was a motorcycle. But not just any motorcycle. It was a matte black Ducati Panigale V4. It looked like a stealth bomber on wheels. It screamed speed, danger, and an obscene amount of money. A large red bow was tied to the handlebars. "No," I whispered. "He didn't." I pushed through the crowd. "Zadie!" Mrs. Gable, my elderly neighbor, chirped. "Is this yours? A handsome young man dropped it off an hour ago. He said it was a safety upgrade." Attached to the bow was a note on thick cream-colored cardstock. I ripped it open. "Your scooter was an insult to engineering. This is safer. Wear the helmet. V." Fury, hot and bright, exploded in my chest. He thought he could just buy me? He thought he could replace Betsy with a $50,000 death machine and I'd just swoon? I grabbed the keys that were taped to the note. I didn't go inside. I turned around and marched right back to the bus stop. 40 minutes later, I stormed into the lobby of the Obsidian Tower. The security guard from yesterday saw my face and frantically pressed a button under his desk. "Go right up, miss. He's expecting you." "I bet he is," I snarled. I rode the elevator up, vibrating with anger. When the doors opened, Varick was sitting by the fire, holding a book. He looked annoyingly calm. He looked up, and his eyes softened. "Zadie, you received the..." Clang! I threw the keys. They hit him square in the chest. Varick caught them before they hit the floor. He looked confused. "It is the top of the line. Heated seats, ABS braking system. It is safer than your pink toaster." "I don't want your charity," I yelled, stomping into the room. "I have a payment plan for my pink toaster. I pay $15 a month and I earned every cent of it. I am proud of my garbage scooter." Varick set down the book. He stood up, towering over me. A slow smile spread across his face. "You are yelling at the Alpha King because he gave you a gift?" "I am yelling at a rich bully who thinks he can solve my life with a checkbook." I poked him in the chest. It was like poking a marble wall. "I am not a pet. I am not a sugar baby. I am broke, but I am free. Take the bike back." Varick grabbed my hand, the one poking him, and held it against his chest. His heart was beating powerfully beneath his shirt. "You are breathtaking when you are angry," he murmured, his eyes tracking the flush on my cheeks. "Stop complimenting me," I shrieked. "It undermines my rage."
Chapter 9. He didn't take the bike back, but he did agree to let me pay him for it. $1 a month, Varick had negotiated, looking amused, for 50,000 months. "Fine," I had said, "but I'm writing you a check every time." I refused to ride it to work, though. I walked. 2 days later, I was manning the espresso machine at the Daily Grind. It was the morning rush. The line was out the door. 1 skinny vanilla latte, extra hot, no foam, a customer yelled. Got it, I muttered, steaming milk. The bell above the door chimed. Suddenly, the chatter in the shop died down. It went from a roar to a hush in 3 seconds. I looked up. Varric was standing in the doorway. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that fit him like a second skin. He filled the doorway. His presence was so heavy it felt like the air pressure in the room had dropped. He didn't get in line. He just walked straight to the counter. People literally jumped out of his way, clutching their muffins. Varric, I hissed, leaning over the counter. You can't cut the line. There are people waiting. Varric glanced at the line. He let out a low, vibrating growl. It was soft, but it triggered some primal instinct in every human in the room. The guy at the front of the line, a businessman in a hurry, turned pale. He can go. I'm actually not thirsty anymore. Me neither, a woman said, backing away. Within 30 seconds, the shop had cleared out. It was just me, Varric, and my terrified manager Kyle, who was hiding behind the pastry case. You just scared away my customers, Varric, I groaned, throwing a dish towel at him. Varric caught the towel. They were too loud. I couldn't hear your heartbeat. My heartbeat doesn't pay the bills, Varric. I work on tips. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a black credit card, and slapped it on the counter. I'll buy everything. Everything? Every muffin, every bean, the chair in the corner. I want to rent this table for the day. I stared at him. You want to rent a table at a coffee shop for the entire day? Yes, he said, pulling out a stool and sitting down. His long legs didn't fit under the tiny table. I have work to do, and the view here is better than my office. He stared directly at me. You are impossible, I sighed, punching his order into the register. What do you want to drink? Black coffee, bitter, like your attitude. I fought a smile. I lost. Coming right up, Your Highness. Chapter 10. Varric actually stayed. He sat in the corner of the daily grind for 6 hours. He had a stack of documents and a laptop, and he looked completely out of place, like a lion sitting in a hamster cage. Every time a male customer came in, Varric would look up. He wouldn't say anything. He would just look. And the guy would suddenly remember he had to be somewhere else. Around 2 p.m., a guy named Brad came in. I knew Brad. He was a regular who thought no meant try harder. Hey, Z-girl, Brad said, leaning over the counter and winking. You look tired. How about I take you out tonight? Massage your feet? I recoiled. No thanks, Brad. Just the usual drip coffee? Come on, Brad said, reaching out to touch my hand. Don't be frigid. Growl. The sound was so loud it rattled the cups on top of the espresso machine. Brad froze. He turned around slowly. Varric was standing up. The table he had been sitting at was pushed aside. He was stalking toward the counter, his eyes glowing neon gold. She said no, Varric said. His voice wasn't human. It was distorted, layered with the sound of a beast. Brad turned white. I was just joking, man. Varric took another step. Do not touch her. Do not look at her. Do not breathe the same air as her. Brad dropped his coffee and ran out the door so fast he tripped over the doormat. I stood there, stunned. My manager, Kyle, had fainted in the back room. Varric stood in the middle of the empty shop, his chest heaving, his hands curled into fists. He looked ready to kill. Varric, I snapped. He snapped his head toward me, snarling. Stop it. I marched around the counter and stood in front of him. You can't just growl at people. This is a place of business. Varric blinked, the gold fading back to gray. He looked down at me, confused by my lack of fear. He touched you, he said, as if that explained everything. He touched my hand. He didn't stab me. He made you uncomfortable. I smelled the distress on you. He reached out and tucked a loose curl behind my ear. His hand was shaking with the effort to be gentle. I wanted to rip his throat out. Well, don't, I said, though my heart was doing a weird fluttery thing. It's messy, and I'd have to mop it up. Varric laughed. It was a rusty, deep sound. You are insane, Zadie. Any other woman would be cowering. I told you, I swiped left. You're going to have to work harder than just scaring away guys named Brad if you want to impress me. Varric leaned against the counter, watching me work. Challenge accepted. Chapter 11. After the coffee shop incident, Varric changed his tactics. He realized that simply throwing money at me was like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. It only made me explode. So he decided to be subtle. And by subtle, I mean he tried to buy my career. I was sitting in my apartment staring at a half-finished digital illustration of a grumpy cat when my email pinged. Subject: Commission Inquiry, Urgent. I opened it. Dear Ms. Zadie, the Royal Wolf Holdings Corporation is in need of a rebrand. We require a new logo. We are looking for something, quote-unquote, bold, predatory, yet approachable. We are prepared to offer a retainer of $10,000 per month. Signed, Basker, on behalf of the CEO. I stared at the screen. $10,000. That would pay off my loans. That would fix my scooter. That would buy me name-brand cheese. I typed a reply. Dear Basker, and the CEO lurking over your shoulder, I draw cartoons of dogs and cats. I do not do corporate branding for terrifying multinational wolf conglomerates. Also, tell him I know predatory yet approachable is just code for I want to look nice before I eat you. Regards, Zadie. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. You are stubborn, Varric's voice growled in my ear. No hello, no preamble. And you are persistent, I shot back, putting him on speaker while I sharpened a pencil. I'm not taking your charity job, Varric. It is not charity, he argued. I have seen your portfolio. You have talent. Why waste it drawing, what is it? A hamster in a cape? That is super hammy, and he is a hero. Look, I appreciate the offer, really, but I want to make it on my own. If I take a handout from you, I'll never know if I'm actually good or if I'm just yours. There was a silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence. You are mine, he finally said, his voice dropping to that dangerous velvet register. But I understand. You want to hunt your own kill. Yes, I said, ignoring the weird hunting metaphor. I want to hunt my own kill. Very well. Then I will not hire you, but I am coming over at 7. We are going to dinner. I didn't say yes to a date. You refuse the job. You cannot refuse the meal. I have compromised. Now it is your turn. Click. Chapter 12. He picked me up on the motorcycle. I walked outside to find him leaning against a black Ducati, wearing a leather jacket that fit him a little too well. He held out a helmet, a black one that matched his. We are riding? I asked, eyeing the beast of a machine. You like the wind, Varric said simply. I saw how you rode your scooter. You like to feel free. I didn't argue. I put on the helmet and climbed on behind him. Hold on tight, he instructed. I wrapped my arms around his waist. He was solid rock. As soon as I touched him, I felt a jolt, like static electricity, zip through my fingers. Varric stiffened, then revved the engine. The ride was terrifying and exhilarating. We wove through the city traffic like a shadow. Varric drove with an ease that bordered on arrogance, leaning deep into the turns. We didn't go to a fancy restaurant. We ended up at a small, hole-in-the-wall burger joint on the pier. Here? I asked, pulling off my helmet. I thought you only ate gold-plated steak. I like meat, Varric shrugged, leading me to a picnic table overlooking the ocean. And this place serves it raw if you ask. Please tell me you're ordering yours cooked. Medium rare. For your sake. We sat there, eating burgers under the string lights. It was nice. Surprisingly normal. So, I said, wiping ketchup off my lip, tell me about being a king. Do you have a crown? A throne? Do you bang a gavel? Varric chuckled. No crown. My authority is in my blood. If I walk into a room, the pack knows. It is instinct. Must be nice, I said. No imposter syndrome. It is lonely, he said quietly. I stopped chewing. I looked at him. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking out at the dark water. Everyone fears the king. They bow, they agree. They offer me things they think I want. No one tells me the truth. No one throws keys at my head. He turned his gaze to me. The intensity was back, but it was softer. Until you. My heart did a traitorous flip. Well, I said, trying to keep it light, stick with me and I'll keep your ego in check. I am counting on it, he murmured. He reached across the table and took my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. Zadie, let me help you. The landlord. I smell the stress on you when you think of your apartment. I pulled my hand away. No, I got this. I'm handling it. I wasn't handling it, but I couldn't tell him that. I was not handling it. 2 days later, I came home from a double shift at the coffee shop to find a padlock on my door. A bright orange sticker was plastered to the wood. Eviction notice. Failure to pay. No, I gasped, dropping my bag. No, no, no. I have until Friday. He said I had until Friday. I banged on the landlord's door downstairs. Mr. Henderson opened it looking bored. My stuff, my laptop, my clothes. You can get them when you pay the back rent plus the late fees, he spat, closing the door in my face. Until then, it's collateral. I stood in the hallway, shaking. It was 10 p.m. I had $40 in my pocket. My phone charger was locked inside. My jacket was locked inside. I walked out onto the street. It was raining again. Of course it was. I sat on the stoop of the building. Call him, a voice in my head whispered. Call Varric. He'll fix this in a second. He'll buy the building. He'll probably feed Mr. Henderson to a shark. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over Varric's number, but I couldn't do it. If I called him now, I was proving him right. I was the damsel. I was the charity case. I would be indebted to him forever. And in his world, debts were paid with loyalty, with submission. I wanted him to like me for me, not because he saved me. I can do this, I whispered, tears mixing with the rain. I'll go to a shelter. I'll figure it out. I walked for hours. The shelters were full, the hostels were too expensive. I ended up in Central Park. I found a bench under a thick oak tree that offered some shelter from the rain. I curled up, hugging my knees to my chest, trying to stop my teeth from chattering. I had never felt so small, so worthless. I swiped left on a king, and now I'm sleeping with pigeons. Chapter 14. Varric woke up with a gasp. The bond, the invisible tether that connected him to Zadie, slammed into his chest like a physical blow. Cold. She was freezing, and she was terrified. Zadie! He roared, scrambling out of bed. He didn't bother with a shirt. He didn't bother with shoes. He threw on a coat and sprinted to the balcony. He closed his eyes, focusing on the scent. It was faint, buried under the smell of the city and the rain, but he found it. Vanilla, rain, fear. She wasn't in her apartment. She was outside, somewhere dark. Basker! Varric bellowed, his voice shaking the walls. Basker ran in, wearing pajamas. Sir? Get the car. No, get the security team. She's in the park. Who is? My mate. Varric shifted. He couldn't wait for a car. He needed speed. Bones cracked and reshaped. Fur sprouted. In seconds, a massive midnight black wolf stood in the penthouse. He leapt over the balcony railing, dropping 50 stories, landing on the adjacent roof with a thud, and took off running. I was drifting into a cold, uneasy sleep when I heard it. A low growl. I opened my eyes. 2 glowing yellow eyes were staring at me from the darkness of the bushes. My heart stopped. A stray dog? A coyote? Nice doggy, I whispered, backing against the bench. The creature stepped into the light of the street lamp. It wasn't a dog. It was a wolf the size of a pony. It was pitch black, with muscles that rippled under wet fur. It looked
like a nightmare. I screamed. The wolf didn't attack. It whined, a high, desperate sound. It stepped closer, lowering its massive head. It snipped my shoe, then my knee. It looked up at me. Its eyes, they weren't yellow. They were gray, swirling with gold. "Varric?" I whispered. The wolf huffed, warm air hitting my frozen face. It nudged my shoulder with its wet nose, then laid down in the mud right in front of me, offering its broad, warm flank. "Get on," the gesture seemed to say. I didn't hesitate. I was too cold to care about biology or logic. I slid off the bench and buried my face in the wolf's fur. He was radiating heat like a furnace. He curled around me, shielding me from the wind and rain. His massive head rested on my lap. "I ruined everything," I sobbed into his fur. "I lost my apartment. I have nothing." The wolf let out a soft rumble, vibrating against my chest. "You have me." I must have passed out, because the next thing I knew, I was moving. I wasn't on a bench anymore. I was being carried. I opened my eyes. I was in Varric's arms, his human arms. He was walking through the lobby of the Obsidian Tower. He was shirtless under an open trench coat, barefoot, and covered in mud. The security guards and concierge staff were staring, open-mouthed. "Mr. Varric," the concierge stammered. "Shall I call a doctor?" "Clear the elevator," Varric snarled, clutching me tighter against his chest. "And get a doctor to the penthouse, now." We shot up to the top floor. Varric kicked the door open. He didn't take me to the guest room this time. He took me straight to his bedroom, a massive space dominated by a king-sized bed with black silk sheets. He laid me down gently, like I was made of glass. "Zadie," he breathed, brushing wet hair off my forehead. His face was pale, his eyes wide with panic. "You are ice cold." "I got evicted," I croaked, my teeth chattering again. "Mr. Henderson," he locked my laptop inside. "I will burn his building down," Varric said, and he sounded entirely serious. "I will buy the block and turn it into a parking lot." He began stripping the wet clothes off me. It wasn't sexual, it was medical. He wrapped me in a thick, heated duvet. Then he climbed into the bed behind me, pulling my back against his warm chest. "Zadie," he whispered into my hair. "I felt you dying of cold. Why didn't you call?" "I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want you to own me." Varric's arms tightened around me. "Zadie," he said, his voice cracking, "I don't want to own you. I want to keep you. There is a difference." He buried his face in my neck, inhaling deeply. "Sleep. You are safe. If the world tries to take you from me again, I will destroy it." For the first time in my life, I believed him. I fell asleep to the sound of his heartbeat, steady and strong against my back. And for the first time, I didn't swipe left. I leaned in. Chapter 16. I woke up, wrapped in silk and heat. The mattress was softer than clouds. The duvet was heavy and smelled like expensive detergent. And there was a wall of muscle pressed against my back. Memory flooded back. The eviction, the park, the wolf. I froze. The wolf. I slowly turned my head. Varric was asleep next to me. He was lying on his side, one arm thrown possessively over my waist, pinning me to the mattress. In the daylight filtering through the blackout curtains, he looked younger, less like a terrifying monarch and more like a guy who really needed a nap. His dark lashes fluttered and then his eyes opened. Instantly awake, instantly alert. The gray-gold irises locked onto mine. "You stayed," he rasped, his voice thick with sleep. "You locked the door," I pointed out, though there was no bite in my tone. "And you threatened to burn down the city."
"I meant it,"
he grumbled, pulling me closer until my nose bumped his chest. "How do you feel?" Are you cold? I'm warm, actually. I'm sweating. You run hot, like a furnace. High metabolism. He murmured, burying his face in my hair. Wolf blood. I stiffened. Right, the wolf thing. We need to talk about that. You turned into a giant dog, Varric, in Central Park. That's a lot to process for a girl who just lost her apartment. Varric propped himself up on one elbow, the sheet falling to his waist. I tried very hard not to look at his abs. I failed. I am a lichen, he said seriously. We are not dogs. We are apex predators. And you, he reached out, tracing the line of my jaw with his thumb. You are my mate. Do you know what that means? It means you're obsessed with me? It means our souls are tethered. It means if you are in pain, I feel it. If you are cold, I shiver. It means I cannot exist in a world where you do not. That is why I chased you. That is why I cannot let you go. The intensity in his eyes was terrifying, but it was also the most validating thing I'd ever heard. After years of feeling invisible, of being the broke friend, the forgotten daughter, this godlike creature was telling me I was his center of gravity. Okay, I whispered, but I still need my toothbrush. Varric blinked, the intensity breaking. What? My stuff. It's locked in my apartment. My toothbrush, my drawing tablet, my lucky socks. Varric sat up, a dark, predatory grin spreading across his face. Get dressed, Zadie. We are going to pay Mr. Henderson a visit.
Chapter 17. Mr. Henderson, my landlord, was a man who enjoyed the small amount of power he had. He liked locking people out. He liked charging late fees. He did not like King Varric. We stood in the hallway of my old building. Varric was wearing a black suit that looked sharp enough to cut skin. Basker stood behind him, holding a briefcase. I stood next to Varric, wearing the fresh set of clothes Basker had miraculously acquired for me. Varric didn't knock. He kicked the door to Mr. Henderson's ground floor apartment. It didn't fly open. He just hit it hard enough to rattle the frame. Mr. Henderson yanked it open. What is the meaning of... He stopped. He looked at Varric. Then he looked at the two massive bodyguards standing by the stairs. Mr. Henderson, Varric said, smooth as silk, I believe you have something that belongs to my associate. She didn't pay rent, Henderson sputtered, pointing a shaking finger at me. The law says... Basker, Varric said. Basker stepped forward and handed Mr. Henderson a piece of paper. What is this? Henderson asked. That is the deed to the building, Basker said cheerfully. Mr. Varric purchased the property 5 minutes ago. Electronic transfer. You are now trespassing on private property. Henderson's face went purple. You bought the building? And the one next door, Varric added, checking his watch. And the coffee shop across the street. I didn't want any future complications. Varric stepped into the apartment, looming over the small man. Now, Varric growled, his voice dropping to that terrifying alpha register. Unlock her apartment. If a single item is missing, if even a pencil is out of place, I will ensure you never find housing in this state again. Henderson scrambled for his keys. He dropped them twice. He practically ran up the stairs to unlock my door. I walked into my tiny studio. It smelled like stale air and home. My half-finished drawing was still on the desk. My lucky socks were on the floor. I felt tears prick my eyes. Varric stood in the doorway. He didn't come in. He looked at the peeling paint, the stained carpet, the leaky faucet. He looked furious that I had lived here. Pack, he said softly. Pack everything you want. Basker will hire movers for the furniture. You are not staying here another night. Varric, I said, grabbing my tablet. Thank you, But I can't live at the penthouse forever. I need to find a place. We will discuss it, which I knew was code for, you are never leaving my sight again. Chapter 18. Living with Varric was weird. It was like living with a panther that had decided to be a house cat. He gave me the guest wing, which was bigger than my old building. He didn't pressure me to sleep in his bed again, though I caught him standing outside my door sometimes, just listening to me breathe. 3 days after the eviction, things shifted. I was in the kitchen eating cereal when Varric walked in. He looked stressed. He was pacing. "What did you break?" I asked, munching on a Cheerio. "Tonight is the Solstice Gala," he said abruptly. "Okay, have fun. Bring me back some cake." "You are coming with me," he said. It wasn't a question. I put down my spoon. "Varric, we talked about this. I am not your trophy. I am not going to some fancy werewolf prom so you can show me off." "It is not a prom," he snapped. Chapter 18. Living with Varric was weird. It was like living with a panther that had decided to be a house cat. He gave me the guest wing, which was bigger than my old building. He didn't pressure me to sleep in his bed again, though I caught him standing outside my door sometimes, just listening to me breathe. 3 days after the eviction, things shifted. I was in the kitchen, eating cereal, when Varric walked in. He looked stressed. He was pacing. "What did you break?" I asked, munching on a Cheerio. "Tonight is the Solstice Gala." "Okay, have fun. Bring me back some cake." "You are coming with me," he said. It wasn't a question. I put down my spoon. "Varric, we talked about this. I am not your trophy. I am not going to some fancy werewolf prom so you can show me off." "It is not a prom," he snapped. "It is a political necessity. The council is restless. There are rumors that I am weak, that I am distracted." He stopped pacing and looked at me. His eyes were haunted. "They know I have found a mate, Zadie, but they haven't seen you. If I do not present you, they will think I am hiding you because you are a weakness. They will come for you." A chill went down my spine. "Come for me? Like to hurt me?" "To use you against me," he said grimly. "But if I claim you publicly, if I show them that you are under my protection and that the bond makes me stronger, not weaker, they will back down." He walked over and placed his hands on the counter, trapping me. "I need you to do this, not for my ego, for your safety. Please." It was the please that got me. The Alpha King didn't say please. "Fine," I sighed, "but I have nothing to wear unless the dress code is Target sweatpants chic." Varric smiled, the tension leaving his shoulders. "Busker has already arranged a stylist. She's in the living room." "Of course she is," I muttered. Unbeknownst to us, across the city, in a dark warehouse that smelled of rust and dried blood, a man named Silas was looking at a photo. It was a grainy photo taken from a long-distance lens. It showed Varric carrying me out of the park. "So," he sneered, tracing the image with a jagged fingernail, "the king has found a stray. She is human, weak, fragile, perfect." Silas smiled. "We don't need to kill the king to take the throne. We just need to break his toy. If we take her, he will crumble." Chapter 19. The dress was ridiculous. It was emerald green velvet, strapless, with a slit that went up to my hip. It hugged every curve I didn't know I had. The stylist, a bubbly woman named Chloe, had piled my hair up and painted my lips a dark berry red. "You look dangerous," Chloe said, "like you could eat a man's heart." "That's the goal," I said nervously. When I walked out into the living room, Varric stopped talking to Basker mid-sentence. He turned. He stared. He stopped breathing. He was wearing a tuxedo, but he had ditched the tie, leaving the top button undone. He looked devastating. "Well?" I spun around. "Do I look like a weakness?" Varric clasped the room in 2 strides. He grabbed my waist, his grip bruisingly tight. "You look," he growled, "like a war waiting to happen. If anyone looks at you tonight, I will blind them." Keep the murder to a minimum. I patted his cheek. Let's go. The gala was held at a massive estate in the countryside. There were hundreds of people. The air buzzed with power, literally. I could feel the static of so many wolves in one place. When we walked in, the room went silent. Every eye turned to us. I felt Varric's arm tighten around me. He wasn't leaning on me. He was shielding me. Chin up, he whispered in my ear. You are the queen. Look at them like you own them. I channeled my inner Varric. I raised my chin. I looked at the crowd with my best "I swiped left on your king" expression. We moved through the room. People bowed. Actual bowing. It was surreal. King Varric, a tall blonde woman, purred, stepping into our path. She was beautiful, statuesque, and looked at me like I was a bug. We didn't expect you to bring a guest. This is not a guest, Lady Alara, Varric said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. He turned to me. He took my hand and raised it to his lips, kissing my knuckles while holding her gaze. This is Zadie, my mate. Gasps rippled through the room. She is human, Alara sniffed, sniffing the air. She smells frail. Varric's smile was terrifying. She smells like the only thing keeping me from tearing this room apart, Alara. I suggest you show her respect. Alara turned pale and stepped back. Crumb, Varric said to me, guiding me toward the balcony. I need air. The perfume in here is offensive. Chapter 20. The balcony was quiet. The cool night air felt good on my flushed skin. You were amazing, Varric said, leaning against the stone railing. You didn't flinch. I was terrified, I admitted. That Alara woman looked like she wanted to turn me into a coat. She wanted to be queen, Varric shrugged. She has been trying to court me for 50 years. She is annoying. 50 years? I choked. How old are you? Old enough to know better, he winked. We stood there for a moment, the tension simmering between us. The moonlight hit his face, softening the sharp angles. He looked at me with such raw hunger that my knees felt weak. Zadie, he whispered, stepping closer. Tonight, claiming you in front of them, it made my wolf very possessive. I noticed, I breathed. You growled at the waiter for offering me shrimp. I don't trust shrimp, he murmured, leaning down. His lips were inches from mine. I closed my eyes. I wanted him to kiss me. I wanted to forget about the deaths, the eviction, the crazy wolf politics. But before our lips could touch, a shadow detached itself from the pillars near the garden. Touching scene, a voice rasped. Varric spun around, shoving me behind his back instantly. A low, thunderous growl erupted from his chest. A man stepped into the light. He was scarred, wearing ragged clothes that looked out of place at the gala. He had a patch over one eye. Silas, Varric snarled. You have nerve coming here, rogue. I came to see the rumors, Silas smiled, revealing yellow teeth. He looked past Varric, directly at me. And the rumors are true. She is tiny, pretty, breakable. Take one step, Varric warned, his hands lengthening into claws, and I will decorate the garden with your entrails. Oh, I'm not here to fight you, King, Silas chuckled, backing away into the shadows. Not yet. I just wanted to mark the scent, so I know what to hunt later. He vanished into the darkness. Varric lunged, but stopped. He couldn't leave me. He turned back to me, his eyes wild with panic and rage. We are leaving, he commanded, grabbing my hand. Now, we go back to the tower. You are never leaving the penthouse again. Varric, who was that? I asked, stumbling in my heels as he dragged me toward the exit. That, Varric said, his voice trembling with fear, was the beginning of the war. Chapter 21. The obsidian penthouse had transformed. It was no longer a luxury apartment. It was a fortress. Varric had gone into full paranoid alpha mode. There were guards at the elevator. Guards in the lobby. I was pretty sure I saw a sniper on the neighboring roof when I looked out the window. Varric, I said, watching him pace the living room floor. He was on his fourth phone call of the hour. Can we discuss the lasers? He covered the mouthpiece of his phone. What lasers? The red beams crisscrossing the hallway to the bathroom. I almost tripped and triggered a silent alarm just trying to pee. Varric hung up the phone and sighed, running a hand through his messy dark hair. He looked exhausted. He hadn't slept since the gala 2 days ago. They are motion sensors, Zadie, not lasers, and they are for your safety. I feel like a hamster in a very expensive cage, I complained, flopping onto the couch. I can't go to work. I can't go to the store. I tried to order a pizza yesterday, and your security team intercepted the delivery guy and interrogated him for 20 minutes. The cheese was congealed by the time I got it. Varric walked over and sat on the coffee table in front of me, his knees bumping mine. His grip was tight, desperate. Silas is a rogue alpha, he said, his voice low and serious. He kills for sport. He wants to take my throne, and he knows the quickest way to break me is to hurt you. I cannot let that happen. He brought my hands to his lips, kissing my knuckles. If I lose you, Zadie, I will lose my mind. My wolf will take over, and I will not be able to stop him. Please, bear with the lasers. I looked into his storm gray eyes. I saw the genuine terror there. It wasn't about control. It was about fear. Okay, I softened, squeezing his hands. I'll bear with the lasers. But if we're stuck inside, you're watching Real Housewives with me, and you're not allowed to growl at the screen when they fight. Varric managed a weak smile. I make no promises. Chapter 22. Cabin fever is a real thing, and when you are trapped with a brooding, overprotective werewolf king, it sets in fast. By day 4, I was climbing the walls. Varric had to go down to the 40th floor for an emergency strategy meeting with his war council. He left Basker and 2 hulking guards, Brutus and Tiny, who was not tiny, to watch me. I need snacks, I announced to the empty room. I need specific snacks. I need the spicy chips from the bodega on 5th Street. The chef here keeps trying to give me artisanal kale chips. Basker looked up from his tablet. I can have a team dispatched to retrieve the chips, Miss Zadie. No, I groaned. I need to do it. I need to walk. I need fresh air. I am a human being, Basker, not a potted plant. I walked to the window. Down on the street, life was happening. People were walking dogs. Cars were honking. Look, I said, turning to Basker with my best puppy dog eyes. There is a convenience store right inside the lobby of the building next door. It's connected by the underground parking garage. We don't even have to go outside, just downstairs. Basker hesitated. The king gave strict orders. The king is in a meeting, and I have Brutus and Tiny. Who was going to attack me with 2 mountains of muscle flanking me? Please, Basker. I just want a bag of chips and the feeling of autonomy. Basker looked at Brutus. Brutus shrugged. Fine, Basker sighed, but we take the service elevator, we go to the garage, we walk 10 feet to the store, we buy the chips, we come back. 5 minutes. Yes, I fist pumped. Operation Spicy Chip is a go. We took the service elevator down. The garage was dim and smelled of concrete and gasoline. Brutus walked in front, Tiny in the back. I felt safe. We made it to the store. I bought my chips. I bought a slushie. I felt gloriously normal. We were walking back to the elevator when the lights in the garage flickered. Then they went out. Stay close, Brutus growled, stepping in front of me. A canister rolled across the floor, clinking against the concrete. Hiss. Thick purple smoke exploded into the air. Wolfsbane gas, Basker yelled, coughing. Don't breathe it! Brutus and Tiny dropped like stones. The gas paralyzed wolves instantly. I stood there, coughing, clutching my chips. I was human. The gas didn't paralyze me. It just smelled like rotten eggs. Hello, princess, a raspy voice whispered from the smoke. A hand clamped over my mouth before I could scream. Chapter 23. I woke up with a headache that felt like a construction crew was drilling behind my eyes. My hands were zip-tied behind my back. My ankles were taped together. I blinked, trying to focus. I was sitting in a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. The ceiling was leaking. There were piles of rusted metal everywhere. It smelled like mildew and bad life choices. "She's awake," a voice sneered. I looked up. Silas was standing in front of me. He looked even worse up close. His scar was jagged, and his remaining eye was a milky, unsettling blue. "Where are my chips?" was the first thing I said. Silas blinked. "What?" "My chips," I repeated, testing the strength of the zip ties. "I bought spicy chips. If you ate them, I'm going to be very upset." Silas stared at me. He looked at his henchmen, 3 dirty, scowling men with tattoos. "Is she in shock?" one of the henchmen asked. "I'm not in shock," I snapped. "I'm annoyed. Do you know how hard it was to get out of that penthouse? And now I'm in what is this? A meat packing plant? A tetanus factory?" Silas stepped closer, grabbing my chin with dirty fingers. "You have a sharp tongue for a hostage. You should be crying. You should be begging for your king to save you." "Oh, he's coming," I said, leaning back as much as the chair allowed. "And when he gets here, he is going to be incredibly grumpy. He hates it when I miss dinner." At the Obsidian Tower, Varric was not grumpy. He was destroyed. He stood in the garage, surrounded by the purple haze of the dissipating gas. Brutus and Tiny were groaning, waking up. Basker was on his knees, trembling. We just went for chips. I'm sorry, my king. I'm so sorry." Varric didn't speak. He walked over to the concrete floor where a bag of spicy chips lay crushed under a boot print. Beside it was Zadie's slushie, spilling blue syrup like blood. He picked up the chip bag. The smell of her fear was still lingering in the air, mixed with the scent of the rogue wolves. Something inside Varric snapped. The human logic, the king's diplomacy, the restraint, it all shattered. He threw his head back and let out a roar that shattered the windows of the cars parked nearby. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated violence. His bones cracked, his suit tore. The black wolf emerged, foaming at the mouth. Hunt, kill, burn it all. Chapter 24. Back at the warehouse, things were getting awkward. I had been tied up for 2 hours. Silas was trying to record a ransom video, but I kept interrupting. "We have your queen," Silas growled at the camera phone. "If you want her back, you will surrender the—" "Can we fix the lighting?" I interrupted. Silas lowered the phone. "Shut up! I'm just saying the lighting is unflattering. You look like a potato. If you want to threaten the king, you should at least look intimidating. Maybe move the camera to the left?" Silas threw the phone against the wall. "Why aren't you screaming?" he yelled, getting in my face. "I am going to kill you. I am going to bleed you dry." "Buddy," I rolled my eyes. "I have student loans. I have an eviction on my record. I deliver pizzas in thunderstorms. You think you're scary? Try explaining to a Karen why her gluten-free crust is burnt. That is scary." One of the henchmen snorted. Silas backhanded him. "She is stalling," Silas realized, his eye narrowing. "She is trying to keep us talking." He pulled a knife from his belt. It was long, rusted, and nasty. "No more talking," he said softly, walking toward me. "Let's send the king a finger. That will get his attention." My sarcasm evaporated. I shrank back against the chair. "Okay, bad idea. Let's go back to the video." Silas grabbed my hand, forcing my fingers onto the rusted table. "This is going to hurt," he smiled. I squeezed my eyes shut. "Varric, please." Boom! The entire west wall of the warehouse didn't just break, it exploded. Cinder blocks turned to dust. Metal beams bent like licorice. Through the dust and debris, a shadow moved. It was massive. It was darkness given form. 2 glowing gold eyes cut through the gloom. The Black Wolf had arrived, and he hadn't come to negotiate. The room erupted into chaos. "It's the king!" one of the henchmen screamed, pulling a gun. He fired. Bang! Bang! The bullets hit the black wolf's fur and did nothing. They annoyed him. The wolf moved so fast he was a blur. He swiped a paw the size of a dinner plate, and the gunman flew across the room, smashing into a stock of crates. He didn't get up. The other two henchmen shifted into wolves, mangy gray things. They lunged. Varric caught the first one mid-air. With a sickening crunch, he snapped its neck and tossed it aside like a chew toy. The second one tried to run. Varric pounced, pinning it to the floor with a snarl that shook the building's foundation. Silas grabbed me. He hauled me up by my hair, dragging me out of the chair. He pressed the rusty knife against my throat. "Stop!" Silas screamed. The black wolf froze. He was 10 feet away, his muzzle dripping with blood, his chest heaving. He looked at me, and I saw the human intelligence warring with the beast's rage in his eyes. "One step," Silas yelled, his hand shaking. "One step, and I open her throat." The wolf let out a low, vibrating growl. He began to shift. Bones snapped and reformed. Fur receded. Within seconds, Varric stood there. He was completely naked, covered in dust and blood, looking like a vengeful god carved from marble. "Let her go," Varric said. His voice wasn't human. It sounded like grinding stones. "You think I'm stupid?" Silas laughed nervously, pressing the knife harder. I felt a sting as the skin broke. A drop of blood trickled down my neck. Varric's eyes tracked that single drop of blood. The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating. "You made her bleed. You are already dead." "Back off," Silas shrieked. "I want the crown. Abdicate. Swear loyalty to me." I looked at Varric. He looked ready to burn the world. I looked at Silas. He was putting all his weight on his back foot. I looked at his front foot. He was wearing old, tattered canvas sneakers with holes worn through the toes. Who wears rotten shoes to a kidnapping? "Hey, Silas," I choked out. "Shut up." "You forgot one thing." "What?" "I delivered pizza for 3 years in NYC. I have really strong legs." I lifted my heavy combat boot and stomped down on his exposed toes with every ounce of strength I had. Crack. "Ah!" Silas screamed, his grip loosening just for a fraction of a second. That was all Varric needed. He didn't run, he vanished. He closed the distance instantly. His hand wrapped around Silas's throat. He lifted the rogue alpha off the ground like a rag doll. "My mate," Varric roared in his face. Then he threw Silas. Silas flew through the air and crashed through the office window on the second floor. Varric turned to me. The rage vanished from his face, replaced with panic. He fell to his knees in front of me, his bloody hands hovering over my shoulders, a friend to touch me. "Zadie," he gasped. "The knife. Your neck." "It's a scratch," I promised, though my knees were shaking. "Varric, you're naked." He let out a breathless, hysterical laugh. He pulled me into his chest, burying his face in my neck, right over the cut, licking the drop of blood away. "I don't care," he sobbed against my skin. "I don't care. I have you." Chapter 26. The adrenaline was starting to fade, replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion. I sat on the hood of Basker's car, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like lavender. Varric was standing in front of me. He was wearing a pair of suit trousers that Basker had hurriedly provided, but he was still shirtless, covered in dust, blood, and grime. He looked like a fallen angel who had just crawled out of a demolition derby. "Are you sure you are all right?" Varric asked for the 10th time in 2 minutes. He reached out to touch my neck, where the small cut was already scabbing over. "I should take you to the hospital. I should hire a team of surgeons." "Varric," I said, putting my hands on his chest. His skin was scorching hot. "I'm fine. It's a scratch. Honestly, I've had worse paper cuts from my sketchbook." Basker sheepishly approached us, holding a bottle of water. "Sir, the police are on their way. We should leave. The cleanup crew is handling the mess." He gestured vaguely to the warehouse, where Silas was presumably groaning in a pile of glass. Varric nodded, his eyes never leaving my face. "We are going home, and we are never leaving again." "Okay, let's not start the Rapunzel routine again," I said, taking the water from Basker. "But yes,
Home sounds good. I really need a shower. And maybe a new bag of chips. Varric let out a huff of laughter, a dry, relieved sound. He scooped me up into his arms bridal style. I can walk, I protested weakly. I know, he said, carrying me toward the back seat of the limo. I'm getting blood on the upholstery. I'll buy a new elevator. I don't care about the elevator, Zadie. I only care that your heart is still beating. Chapter 27. The bathroom in the master suite was bigger than my old apartment. It had a tub large enough to teach swimming lessons in. Varric set me down on the vanity counter. I will run a bath, he said, his hands shaking slightly as he turned the gold taps. Steam began to rise. Varric, I said softly, stop. He froze. What? You're hurt, I said, pointing to a gash on his shoulder where a bullet had grazed him before he shifted. Sit down. It is nothing, he dismissed. Like in healing, it will be gone in an hour. Sit down, I ordered, using my I'm talking to a stubborn toddler voice. To my surprise, the Alpha King obeyed. He sat on the edge of the massive tub, his shoulders slumping. I grabbed a washcloth and dipped it in the warm water. I stepped between his legs and began to gently wipe the blood and dirt from his chest. Varric hissed as the cloth touched his skin, not from pain, but from the contact. His hands came up to rest on my hips, his thumbs rubbing circles into the fabric of my jeans. I thought I was too late, he whispered, his voice cracking. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at the water. When I smelled your blood, my wolf went blind. I didn't see a warehouse. I saw red. I saw the end of my world. He looked up at me, his gray eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I have lived for 4 centuries, Zadie. I have conquered cities. I have amassed a fortune. But in that moment, I was a pauper. Because without you, none of it matters. My heart squeezed so hard, I thought it might burst. I dropped the washcloth into the water. I cupped his face in my hands, feeling the rough stubble against my palms. You didn't lose me, I said firmly. I'm right here, and I'm pretty hard to get rid of. I'm like a cockroach, or glitter. Varric laughed, a wet, choked sound. He leaned his forehead against mine. You are not a cockroach, he breathed. You are my queen. Then listen to your queen, I whispered, brushing my lips against his. Get in the bath, wash the blood off, then come to bed. No more talking. Varric shuddered. His grip on my hips tightened, pulling me flush against him. Yes, ma'am, he growled. Chapter 28. The next morning, the sun was streaming through the windows, oblivious to the kidnapping and destruction of the previous night. We were in bed. I was wearing one of Varric's t-shirts, and he was wearing, well, nothing. He was currently tracing invisible patterns on my arm with his fingertip. I have made a decision, he announced. Oh boy, I yawned, stretching. Does it involve buying me a country? Because I don't want to pay property taxes on a country. No, Varric said seriously. I am going to retire. I choked on air. Retire? You're the king. Can you just quit? I can delegate. Bhaskar is competent. The council is terrified of me now that I threw Silas out a window. I don't want to spend my days in boardrooms anymore. I want to spend them with you. He rolled over, hovering above me. I want to watch you paint. I want to ride motorcycles. I want to argue with you about pizza toppings. I smiled, running my hands through his messy hair. Varric, you'd be bored in a week. You need to rule things. It's in your DNA. Then I will rule you, he teased, a wicked glint in his eye. I poked him in the ribs. Try it, and I'll swipe left so hard your ancestors will feel it. His expression sobered. He grabbed my hand and kissed the palm. Zadie, about the mate bond. I know I forced this world on you. I know you wanted a normal life. If you want to leave, If you want to go back to your apartment and pretend this never happened, I will let you go. I will protect you from a distance, but I will not force you to stay." It was the bravest lie he had ever told. I could see the panic in his eyes. He would let me go, but it would destroy him. I sat up, pulling the sheet with me. "You're an idiot," I said, affectionately. "Excuse me?" "I don't want a normal life. Normal is boring. Normal is dating guys named Brad who don't tip. Normal is lonely." I looked at him, really looked at him. My monster, my protector. "I love you, Varric. I love that you're intense. I love that you bought my landlord's building out of spite. I love that you turn into a giant wolf when I'm cold." He stopped breathing. "Say that again." "I love you." He didn't just kiss me, he claimed me.
Chapter 29. The kiss was hungry, desperate, and possessive. It wasn't the tentative touch of our first days. This was a king claiming his territory. Varric flipped us over, pinning me to the mattress with his weight. It felt good. It felt grounding. "Mine," he growled against my lips, his voice vibrating through my entire body. "Yours," I gasped back. The air in the room grew heavy, charged with static. I could smell the ozone and rain of his scent intensifying. "Zadie," he warned, pulling back slightly, his eyes glowing neon gold. "If we do this, if I mark you, there is no going back. The bond becomes permanent. You will be part of the pack. You will be mine in every way a soul can be owned." I reached up and pulled him back down. "Stop talking, wolf boy. Mark me." He didn't need to be told twice. His mouth moved down my jaw to the sensitive spot where my neck met my shoulder. He nipped, he licked, and then, with a surge of pleasure and sharp heat, he bit down gently. It wasn't painful. It was electric. I felt a rush of warmth flood my veins, a golden thread connecting my heart to his. I could feel his emotions, his overwhelming love, his relief, and his fierce protectiveness, flooding into me. "Mate," his voice echoed in my head, not spoken, but felt. "Mate," I thought back. He pulled back, licking the spot he had claimed. The wound was already healing, leaving behind a faint, shimmering mark that looked like a crescent moon. "You are glowing," he whispered, looking at me with awe. "I feel glowing," I laughed breathlessly. He kissed me again, slower this time, savoring the connection. We spent the rest of the day in that bed. The world outside, the paparazzi, the council, the repairs to the warehouse could wait. The king was busy. Chapter 30. 6 months later. "Hold still, or I'm drawing you with a unibrow," I warned. Varric froze. He was sitting on a stool in my new art studio. He was shirtless because I had told him it was for artistic anatomy studies, but mostly I just liked looking at him. "Is this taking much longer?" he grumbled. "We have a reservation at Tony's in 20 minutes. "Relax," I said, shading his jawline on my canvas. Art takes time. Life had settled into a chaotic, wonderful rhythm. I didn't move back to my old apartment, obviously. I lived in the penthouse, but I insisted on renting this studio space downtown with my own money. My freelance career had exploded. It turns out, when the Alpha King is your boyfriend, people suddenly pay attention to your art. I had a wait list for commissions. "Done," I said, putting down my charcoal. Varric stood up and walked over to the easel. He looked at the portrait. It was good. It captured the intensity in his eyes, but also the softness that only I got to see. "It is acceptable," he sniffed, though I could tell he was preening. "You captured my regal essence." "I captured your brooding face," I corrected, wiping charcoal off my hands. "Check your phone," Varric said suddenly. "Why?" "Just check it." I pulled my phone out of my pocket. There was a notification from the App Store. "Shifter Spark has been updated."